Hi again. Here's another section of our speech, A Child's War, Living on Orkney. And my name is Beth Gay Freeman, and this is number 3. A particularly good friend of the family was Jack Sparham, an acting captain in the regular army. The Leask family's house on Graham Place had its own pier, and Mum's pride and joy was her rowing boat. One lovely summer evening, she gave Jack a lift along the harbor to meet her sister Betty at the North End and to take her to the pictures. Jack dressed immaculately as usual. Sam Brown Shining had insisted on rowing, and as they passed a large ship tied up at the pier and thronged with sailors, he put on a special spurt. Unfortunately, he caught a crab and fell backwards into the boat. Above the chorus of laughter, a voice called out, "Thank God, we've got a navy." The Army had a piggery at Ness. You know what a piggery is? It's where pigs live. But to make effective use of the scraps of the camps, they had pigs, and the income from the sale of pigs to the camps went into a comfort fund for the troops. It isn't so clear why there was a pigeon loft in the field across the roundabout from St. Peter's. Lieutenant Skinner was officer in charge of pigeons. Presumably not what he expected to be doing when he joined up. It is believed that birds may have been carried in aircraft in case a downed crew couldn't get their radio message out. It's surprising to discover that some of the things we laughed at in Dad's Army really happened. Signs were erected in German so that the invading hordes could be ambushed as they stopped to read them. This sounds scarcely credible, but my parents remembered at least one at Maracay near the top of the Brae of Gloucester outside of Stromness. When Norway was invaded early in the war, the small Allied force there was evacuated to Orkney. The news of the fall of Norway was not released for several weeks, and the troops were kept in tented camps in Orkney, forbidden any outside contact. One camp was at the Stromness side of the Brig of Waith, and another was in the field to the east of the Stenness School. My Aunt Joyce worked at headquarters in the Stromness Hotel, and 2 servicemen came to ask if she could check a news item that they had read, announcing the death of the mayor of an English town. One of the servicemen was the mayor's son, and unable to contact his family, was desperate to find out more details. The requisitioning of goods by the Army was a regular inconvenience at my grandfather's drapery. Of course, they paid for the goods, but the shopkeepers were only allowed to stock specified quantities of any item, so it was hard to keep ordinary customers supplied. A roll of linoleum was hidden behind the window shutters to keep it safe from the Army's predations. My grandmother, Kate, was president of the WVS, Women's Voluntary Service, during the war, and helped to run the 2-penny bash in St. Peter's Church Hall. St. Peter's was the first parish church in Stromness and is now the community center at the top of the Kirk Road. The bash was a canteen for service personnel and was in the hall where the flower show is now held during shopping week. Every day but Sunday, the women of Stromness provided tea, sandwiches, and home baking for, as you may have guessed, 2 pence. Everyone had their regular weekly shift, and every Thursday my grandmother would spend the morning baking and the afternoon making tea and washing up. The kitchen was small, hot, and steamy, and it was usually about 9 o'clock at night by the time the women got home. That's the end of our number 3 section of this speech, and we'll be back with more in just a moment. Thank you.